Hi guys, welcome to another video on Event to May. So I feel like I've made a video about this, about white validation before, but I like to add this whole black excellence even more to it because it's so interesting for me to always reevaluate why does something matter, why is it a big deal, why is it not a big deal, because in there we understand our conditioning and how we react to certain things, and why we react to the things the way we do. For example, this past month a lot of great black movies have won a lot of great awards, and there's been a lot of appreciation of obviously from the black community in the sense that finally black actors and movies are getting the recognition they've always deserved. And in one hand, of course, as a black person, you're happy, you're like, that's great, that's important because we want to see our stories as well. But on the other hand, we have to question, why did our stories not exist before this? Did our stories not matter before this? And where did the line get crossed where they didn't matter and finally now they matter? Or they weren't recognized and now they're recognized? And by who, you know? Because if we in the black community, even globally in the diaspora, if we recognize and love the movies we make, we love the literature we write, we love the things we do, the dances we make, the music we make, why is it then still important to have tags as Oscars so white? Because again, we are trying to get the validation of whiteness. You do not see why is Bollywood so brown. The reason we focus on the Oscars or the Golden Globes and so on, or the Grammys, is because these were created by white society for white entertainment. But because they were associated with whiteness, we in the black community saw them as valuable. And again, that is also because of colonialism, years of Eurocentrism, and being conditioned into seeing whiteness as all superior and so on. But what I'm trying to say is that in a way, indirectly, when we say that things are now important and now it's great and now it's doing great because it has the recognition from white establishment that it deserves, we're literally saying that anything that matters should first go through the hands of whiteness. And if it doesn't, then it's not good enough. So we are constantly in reaction mode as black people. It's the same thing that goes for representation. Of course representation matters, but whose responsibility is it, especially in today's age, to be in charge of making that representation and telling the stories that matter to us? Shouldn't that be our job? Shouldn't that be us? Why make it important for a white writer to make movies with black cast in it, or enough black cast, and for them not to be stereotypical or for them not to be sidekicks? When we see movies where we are portrayed as the sidekick or our stories have no depth, we're just the supporting, the supporting character in a movie, not really our stories as the main lead, are not important to white people. We should see that as them telling us obviously of their world and how they see us in their world. But for us then to come and beg, no, we need more representation, we need to be in your movies, we need to be in your awards, we need to be in your literature, we need to, it's again reaffirming for ourselves that we do not have the power to give that recognition to ourselves, that we need them to recognize us. That's the only way that black excellence exists, or that's the only way black excellence matters. It's when it's recognized by whiteness. And there's also this complaint about how white mediocrity is always awarded, whereas black people have to work 10 times as hard to have any recognition. But that's because we are working to be recognized by people who constantly show us that in their world the people that matter the most are their kind. But we want to be so much a part of that. We want to be so much a part of that world. We want to be so much important in that world that we are willing to degrade ourselves even more, work ourselves to death because you're a black person, so you gotta work twice as hard. On which planet? Why do we feel the need to carry those stones around our identity? That we just have to be jumping hoops for white people to show them how excellent we are, how talented we are, how intelligent we are. We shouldn't care that the Oscars are so white, or the Grammys, or the Golden Globes. That doesn't matter, that shouldn't matter to us. Those are white people's awards that matter to them. if we get it, you can be like, oh, okay, great, but you don't name it Black excellence. It's Black excellence because white people are recognizing us. I was reading an article about a girl who was talking about Empire, the show, and she was talking about how a lot of people hate it because it's so stereotypically Black, and they don't feel like it represents or does a great representation to Black people. And she made this really good case where she was talking about if it wasn't about a family in the hip hop industry, if it was a law firm family fighting to keep the empire and the family business going, we would have a different perspective on it. But the fact that it's a family that works in the music industry and hip hop, for that matter of fact, then we have this idea that, oh, it's stereotypical, we don't like that, we don't associate with Black excellence. But if, for example, it was, let's say even if it was the cast was Black still, but they were lawyers or doctors, that is Black excellence, you know, because white people would approve of that, because white people don't think we are smart enough to be anything but, you know, but singers and athletes. And she also made a great point where she was talking about that Black excellence shouldn't come at the cost of not appreciating the things that, yeah, maybe are stereotypical about us, but I still think that we should appreciate our athleticism, our singing abilities, our entertainment abilities, all these things, our dance abilities. But instead we associate Black excellence with how close we are to whiteness. That's what we associate with, okay, now this is progress because whiteness validates this, because whiteness has this as well. And it's kind of quite sad because it can also be related to Frantz Fanon in his Black Skin, White Mask, where he talks about that the relationship between the slave and the master is one of the actor and the reactor, in which case the master, because he's the master, he is acting. And for me, I would take that to another degree and say the master is in charge of his life, is in charge of his destiny. If he wants to create a musical company or a university like Harvard or Oxford or whatever have you, and they create this and this is going to be our measurements of our excellence as white people, he can do that. He's always in charge of acting for his life. Whereas the Black person or the slave mentality person is always in reaction to what the master acts upon. So then it will be like, we want to be in your schools, we want to have your awards, we want to have your recognition, we want to be represented in your movies. So the master gets the job of the doer, and the slave-minded person is begging to be a part of the doer. And that is also, again, the play on the inferiority and the superiority complex, in which, because we feel inferior, we are constantly needing to prove our superiority, overachieving even at that, to prove that we are so good, because we have low self-esteem in just being us, in just being Black, and just doing Black things, so building Black schools, Black awards, Black institutions, because we do not actually value them. We want to see ourselves in whiteness. The Black person then, with the slave mentality's highest achievement, is to be able to imitate whiteness and have a white life and white awards in white institutions, white neighborhoods, in clothes designed by white designers, and live a white life in a Black skin, because that is the goal then of Blackness, because our identity in itself has no value unless it's washed through the validation of whiteness. And I feel that when we talk about Black excellence, we should be really aware of that. We should ask ourselves, why is this excellent? Why is it excellent? Because of who? Was it excellent before this? And who gets to decide when it's excellent and when it isn't excellent? I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, and I'll let some of the articles in the description box. And others, I'll see you in my next video, guys. Bye!